It's easy to feel hopeless in a big world. So how can one small person really make a difference? Now, a lot of old tales are dark and grim, showing us the worst parts of humanity. But then you stumble across a gem like this lighthearted but still old school twisted tale and get a little, much needed chuckle back into your soul. Yes, there are exorcisms, possessed animals, thieves, butcherings, regurgitations, digestions, and dark Pinocchio vibes. But there are also a lot of laughs along the way. So friends and fiends, get comfy and cozy, summon your familiars, grab a cup of your favorite tea, and follow me. A poor woodman sat in his cottage one night, smoking his pipe by the fireside, while his wife sat by his side spinning. "How lonely it is, wife," he said as he puffed out a long curl of smoke, "for you and me to sit here by ourselves, without any children to play about and amuse us while other people seem so happy and merry with their children." "What you say is very true," said the wife, sighing, and turning round her wheel, "how happy should I be if I had but one child? If it were ever so small, nay, if it were no bigger than my thumb, I should be very happy and love it dearly." Now, odd as you may think it came to pass that this good woman's wish was fulfilled, just in the very way she had wished it, for not long afterward, she had a little boy who was quite healthy and strong, but was not much bigger than my thumb. So they said, "Well, we cannot say we have not got what we wished for, and little as he is, we will love him dearly." And they called him Thomas Thumb. They gave him plenty of food, yet for all they could do, he never grew bigger, but kept just the same size as he had been when he was born. Still, his eyes were sharp and sparkling, and he soon showed himself to be a clever little fellow who always knew well what he was about. It's heartwarming to see love like Tom's parents have in fairy tales. They are actually overjoyed with their child, unlike in other tales, looking at you, Hop on My Thumb, where the smallest child is resented and barely tolerated by his family of 8 others. One day, as the woodman was getting ready to go into the wood to cut fuel, he said, "I wish I had someone to bring the cart after me, for I want to make haste." "Oh, father," cried Tom, "I will take care of that. The cart shall be in the wood by the time you want it." Then the woodman laughed and said, "How can that be? You cannot reach up to the horse's bridle." "Never mind that, father," said Tom. "If my mother will only harness the horse, I will get into his ear and tell him which way to go." "Well," said the father, "we will try for once." When the time came, the mother harnessed the horse to the cart and put Tom into his ear. And as he sat there, the little man told the beast how to go, crying out, "Go on," and "Stop," as he wanted. And thus the horse went on just as if the woodman had driven it himself into the wood. It happened that as the horse was going a little too fast and Tom was calling out, "Gently, gently," 2 strangers came up. "What an odd thing that is," said one. "There's a cart going along, and I hear a carter talking to the horse, but yet I can see no one." "That is odd indeed," said the other. "Let us follow the cart and see where it goes." So they went on into the wood till at last they came to the place where the woodman was. Then Tom Thumb, seeing his father, cried out, "See, father, here I am with the cart, all right and safe. Now take me down." So his father took hold of the horse with one hand, and with the other took his son out of the horse's ear and put him down upon a straw, where he sat as merry as you please. The 2 strangers were all this time looking on and did not know what to say for wonder. At last one took the other aside and said, "That little urchin will make us our fortune. If we can get him and carry him about from town to town as a show, we must buy him." So they went up to the woodman and asked him what he would take for the little man. "He will be better off," they said, "with us than with you." "I won't sell him at all," said the father. "My own flesh and blood is dearer to me than all the silver and gold in the world." But Tom, hearing of the bargain they wanted to make, crept up his father's coat to his shoulder and whispered into his ear, "Take the money, father, and let them have me. I'll soon come back to you." So the woodman at last said he would sell Tom to the strangers for a large piece of gold, and they paid the price. "Where would you like to sit?" said one of them. "Oh, put me on the rim of your hat. That will be a nice gallery for me. I can walk about there and see the country as we go along." So they did as he wished, and when Tom had taken his leave of his father, they took him away with them. Now you'll see that this story kind of has dark Pinocchio vibes, here specifically where Pinocchio runs off and joins Stromboli's traveling show as the main attraction. And while I do appreciate Tom's father not wanting to sell his child, he also gives Tom space to experience the world. I can see how Tom would see the adventure of it all, the chance to stretch his tiny legs and exercise his outsized wit, and net his family some gold in the process. They journeyed on till it began to be dusky, and then the little man said, "Let me get down, I'm tired." So the man took off his hat and put him down on a clod of earth in a plowed field by the side of the road. But Tom ran amongst the furrows and at last slipped into an old mouse hole. "Good night, my masters," he said. "I'm off. Mind and look sharp after me the next time." They ran at once to the place and poked their heads and sticks into the mouse hole, but all in vain. Tom only crawled farther and farther in, and at last it became quite dark, so that they were forced to go their way without their prize, as sulky as could be. When Tom found they were gone, he came out of his hiding place. "What dangerous walking it is," he said, "in this plowed field. If I were to fall from one of these great clods, I should undoubtedly break my neck." At last, by good luck, he found a large empty snail shell. "This is lucky," he said. "I can sleep here very well." And in he crept. Just as he was falling asleep, he heard two men passing by, chatting together, and one said to the other, "How can we rob that rich parson's house of his silver and gold?" "I'll tell you," cried Tom. "What noise was that?" said the thief, frightened. "I'm sure I heard someone speak." They stood still listening, and Tom said, "Take me with you, and I'll soon show you how to get the parson's money." "But where are you?" they said. "Look about on the ground," answered he, "and listen where the sound comes from." At last the thieves found him out and lifted him up in their hands. "You little urchin," they said, "what can you do for us?" "Why, I can get between the iron window bars of the parson's house and throw you out whatever you want." "That's a good thought," said the thieves. "Come along, we shall see what you can do." When they came to the parson's house, Tom slipped through the window bars into the room and then called out as loud as he could bawl, "Will you have all that is here?" At this, the thieves were frightened and said, "Softly, softly. Speak low so that you may not awaken anybody." But Tom seemed as if he did not understand them and bawled out again, "How much will you have? Shall I throw it all out?" Now the cook lay in the next room, and hearing such a noise, she raised herself up in bed and listened. Meanwhile, the thieves were frightened and ran off a little way. But at last they plucked up their hearts and said, "The little urchin is only trying to make fools of us." So they came back and whispered softly to him, saying, "Now let us have no more of your roguish jokes, but throw us out some of the money." Then Tom called out, as loud as he could, "Very well, hold your hands, here it comes." The cook heard this quite plain, so she sprang out of bed and ran to open the door. The thieves ran off as if a wolf was at their tails, and the maid, having groped about and found nothing, went away for a light. By the time she came back, Tom had slipped off into the barn, and when she had looked about and searched every hole and corner and found nobody, she went to bed thinking she must have been dreaming with her eyes open. Tom certainly feels like an agent of chaotic good so far. The little man crawled about in the hayloft and at last found a snug place to finish his night's rest in. So he laid himself down, meaning to sleep until daylight, and then find his way home to his mother and father. But alas, how woefully he was undone. What crosses and sorrows happen to us all in this world. The cook got up early, before daybreak, to feed the cows, and going straight to the hayloft, carried away a large bundle of hay, with the little man in the middle of it, fast asleep. He still, however, slept on and did not wake till he found himself in the mouth of a cow. For the cook had put the hay into the cow's rick, and the cow had taken Tom up in a mouthful of it. "Good lack-a-day," he said, "how came I to tumble into the mill?" But he soon found out where he really was, and was forced to have all his wits about him, that he might not get between the cow's teeth, and so be crushed to death. At last he went into her stomach. "It is rather dark," he said. "They forgot to build windows in this room to let the sun in. A candle would be no bad thing." Though he made the best of his bad luck, he did not like his quarters at all. And the worst of it was that more and more hay was always coming down, and the space left for him became smaller and smaller. Now, I had to check on this because in my mind, this was getting pretty dark and gruesome. I had Tom about to start on a multi-part stomach adventure. Cows, while they only have one stomach, that stomach is divided up into 4 distinct compartments, each with its own function, like fermentation, regurgitation, absorption, and finally, digestion. Sounds like a horrible time, and I can't say I'd be complaining about the light conditions with those stops ahead on my magic school bus style journey, but Tom is nothing if not an optimist. Anyway, at last he cried out as loud as he could, "Don't bring me any more hay! Don't bring me any more hay!" The maid happened to be just then milking the cow, and hearing someone speak but seeing nobody, and yet being quite sure that it was the same voice that she had heard in the night, she was so frightened that she fell off her stool and overset the milk pail. As soon as she could pick herself up out of the dirt, she ran up as fast as she could to her master the parson and said, "Sir, sir, the cow is talking." But the parson said, "Woman, thou art surely mad." However, he went with her into the cow house to try to see what was the matter. Scarcely had they set foot on the threshold when Tom called out, "Don't bring me any more hay." Then the parson himself was frightened, and thinking the cow was surely bewitched, told his man to kill her on the spot. So the cow was killed and cut up, and the stomach in which Tom lay was thrown out upon a dunghill. Ah, poor milk cow, such a fate she didn't deserve, alas. Tom soon set himself to work to get out, which was not a very easy task. But at last, just as he had made room to get his head out, fresh ill luck befell him. A hungry wolf sprang out and swallowed up the whole stomach, with Tom in it, at one gulp, and ran away. Poor Tom. Tom, however, was not disheartened, and thinking the wolf would not dislike having some chat with him as he was going along, he called out, "My good friend, I can show you a famous treat." "Where's that?" said the wolf. "In such and such a house," said Tom, describing his own father's house. "You can crawl through the drain into the kitchen and then into the pantry, and then there you will find cakes, ham, beef, cold chicken, roast pig, apple dumplings, and everything that your heart could wish for." The wolf did not want to be asked twice. So that very night he went to the house and crawled through the drain into the kitchen and then into the pantry, and ate and drank there to his heart's content. And meanwhile, was Tom still getting squished? As soon as he had had enough, he wanted to get away, but he had eaten so much that he could not go out by the same way he came in. This was just what Tom had reckoned upon, and now he began to set up a great shout, making all the noise he could. "Will you be easy?" said the wolf. "You'll awaken everybody in the house if you make such a clatter." "What's that to me?" said the little man. "You have had your frolic, now I have a mind to be merry myself." And he began singing and shouting as loud as he could. The woodman and his wife, being awakened by the noise, peeped through a crack in the door, but when they saw a wolf was there, you may well suppose that they were sadly frightened, and the woodman ran off for his axe and gave his wife a scythe. "Do you stay behind," said the woodman, "and when I have knocked him on the head, you must rip him up with the scythe." Tom heard all this and cried out, "Father, father, I am here. The wolf has swallowed me." And as his father said, "Heaven be praised, we have found our dear child again." And he told the wife not to use the scythe for fear he should hurt him. Then he aimed a great blow and struck the wolf on the head and killed him on the spot. I love the teamwork, fam. And when he was dead, they cut open his body and set Tommy free. "Ah," said the father, "what fears we have had for you." "Yes, father," answered he. "I have traveled all over the world, I think, in one way or another, since we parted, and now I am very glad to come home and get fresh air again." "Why, where have you been?" said his father. "I have been in a mole-hole and a snail shell, down a cow's throat, and in the wolf's belly, and yet here I am, safe and sound." "Well," they said, "you are come back, and we will not sell you again for all the riches in the world." Good. Then they hugged and kissed their dear little son and gave him plenty to eat and drink, for he was very hungry, especially after being eaten so many times. And then they fetched some new clothes for him, for his old ones had been quite spoiled on his journey. So Master Thumb stayed at home with his father and mother in peace, for though he had been so great a traveler and had done and seen too many fine things, and was fond enough of telling the whole story, he always agreed that, after all, there's no place like home. The end of the fairy tale, Tom Thumb, this one collected by the Brothers Grimm. And like the cook, I have to wonder if I wasn't dreaming while awake with this one. All of Tom's adventures seem to have happened in one day, like one night sleep cycle. How many times can you be eaten? Thankfully, he didn't get digested too far into the cow's belly system. That might have been a little messy, and there might have been a lot less of Tom by the end. Though I am impressed that he avoided the wolf's teeth when he got eaten. But before we continue on, did you know that A Bit Late is now a podcast? You can find it wherever you listen to your podcast, and of course on Nebula ad-free, including this brand new story. What if there was a giant flea the size of a sheep? What if this giant flea's gruesome death set off an even darker chain of events that led to a royal family rift, a princess forced to marry a monster, and then try to escape him with the aid of 7 questionably superpowered giants? Would that be a butterfly effect, or just a very old twisted tale? And you can dive into it right now on Nebula First, before it's out on YouTube. I release all of my stories early on Nebula First, and you can find all of my past stories, ASMR videos, and growing library of podcast episodes ad-free on Nebula as well. And if you love stories and podcasts, you'll really want to check out the Sojourn audio drama. With humanity on the brink of collapse, a desperate multinational mission sets out to explore a distant nebula in search of life-saving resources. The crews face not only division within the expedition itself, but an unexpected new threat, a fanatical alien race who will stop at nothing to eliminate outsiders. The Sojourn is an epic interstellar adventure grounded in a rich sci-fi universe inspired by the Age of Sail, told entirely through audio, with veteran voice actors, immersive sounds, and a sweeping original soundtrack. And their original, Faithless, is exclusively on Nebula right now. Now, A Bit Late is a small, quiet corner of the internet, and Nebula's support does make a difference in sharing stories with you. To get early access on Nebula First and access all of my videos without ads, please check out my links. go.nebula.tv/abitlate. You can get 40% off Nebula, or $36 per year, $3 a month. And you can go watch this new classic old story right now. And if you're already on Nebula, you can share guest passes with your friends so they can access it too for a full week. Or if you know they'll love Nebula, check out our monthly and yearly gift cards. Nebula has absolutely made a difference in me making these videos, and by signing up using my links, it makes it more possible. Thank you for being here and for checking out Nebula. Thank you for listening to this fairy tale from the Brothers Grimm, Tom Thumb. I do hope you enjoyed the telling of it. But for now, off to sleep and dream what you will, or stay a while and enjoy another tale. Whichever you choose, I'll speak to you again, and until then, stay spooky and sleepy, my friends. Good night.